But even today, right, we have customers from Singapore, from Taiwan, from Australia, from India, and from the US, outside of the Philippines and Indonesia, which are our two core markets. So we are pretty excited to see that, because it is basically telling us that the problem that we're trying to solve is a very pervasive problem.
Cool. So now I'm with Carl from Sourcy. It'll be great if you can briefly introduce yourself and your background and how you ended up starting Sourcy.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually originally from Hong Kong, and that's why it's really glad to have someone like you visiting Hong Kong, understand a little bit about our ecosystem. So I started my career as a sourcing consultant, which is a very interesting, I guess, job, because we help companies like Estée Lauder, Hasbro, Nissan from Japan to source products, right, in Asia. So we do a lot of strategic cost-cutting projects, as well as new product development and innovation projects. So I learned a lot about supply chain and sourcing and things like that. And then I think that always left me wonder. Today's sourcing channel is very inefficient, right? Maybe I can do something to help solve the problems that I see. But then at the time, back in the days, I was still very young, so I didn't have enough courage, I guess, to really start a company. So later on, I did my business school in the US at the Wharton School, and then after graduation, I worked in the IFC, which is the private investment arm of the World Bank Group, for a while. And then over there, I learned a lot about B2B, e-commerce, as well as venture investing and concepts like that. And then I feel like, maybe now I do know enough to start a company, right? So around 2 years ago, I just forced myself to take the leap, because I told myself if I didn't start something sooner, I would probably never start something in my life. So I just finally decided to take the leap to become a founder. And then when I look at all the different ideas that I had, right, I realized the one thing that I really know enough is sourcing. I understand really the pain points and the difficulties that my previous clients had, and then I realized, if even the largest companies in the world are facing such a headache when doing their own sourcing, then of course for the rest of the companies, they must need help, right, in sourcing. So that's why I finally decided to look specifically in this sourcing industry and started Sourcy.
I see. Very interesting. Is it common to become an entrepreneur in Hong Kong? How did you feel when you become an entrepreneur?
So it is very uncommon, I have to tell you. I would say Hong Kong is a very traditional society, right? Meaning people still consider being a founder a very risky and dangerous career choice. Most of my so-called high-flying friends, right, they are either doctors or lawyers or working in banking, and being a founder is somewhat a very non-traditional decision. So the reason why I really decided to start a company was because of my experience at Wharton. Some of my classmates at the time and some of my closest friends, they were founders themselves. Some of them were associated with this organization called Rocket Internet, and they started a lot of different companies, a lot of different projects in different parts of the world, right? I think that really fundamentally challenged my worldview in a way. I realized, success in life is not only about becoming a doctor or becoming a banker, right? There are a lot of different ways to create value. And the best way to create value is actually to build something new, right? So that's why I finally decided to become a founder. And what I felt at the very beginning was, of course, a lot of anxiety, because growing up, I've been very used to a checking the box type of mentality, right? Always ensuring that I'm doing well, but being a startup founder, you're very much dealing with ambiguity and uncertainty all the time, and that's that was like very anxiety inducing at the beginning. But I think over time I also trained myself to be more like a optimist. So now I will really, I'm much more comfortable with the ambiguity than when I first started. And I think this is probably one of the most important skills that I have learned as a founder.
Are like many other entrepreneurs like you who were like studying abroad and their mindset changing and all that, or like who are the people who are like founding their own companies?
I would say they are all, like including myself, right? We are all a little bit like in a way or another an outsider. So either being educated abroad and then coming back, or let's say growing up, some of my founder friends, they might be more like the rebels, so they are always the naughty students in class and things like that. So like those are usually the typical profile. I think that also makes sense, because like if you are always a high flying kind of checking the box type of student, like for a period of time I used to be, then it's really hard for you to all of a sudden make the leap, right? I myself was fortunate enough to meet a lot of founder friends from the US, and that really inspired me. And I'm sure like for some of my other founder friends, they had someone who inspired them to make this career choice, because it's still not a common choice yet.
May I know like what's special about Sourcy? What's like the differentiator? And it'll be great like if I can know more like numbers. Like,
for sure. So I think the most special thing about Sourcy is we are trying to use AI, right, to streamline sourcing and e-commerce. So if you think about I guess like traditional B2B startups, B2B e-commerce startups, they use a very low touch marketplace solution. So they basically outsource the complexities to the buyer and the seller. And very often the deal doesn't go through because a lot of the things cannot be agreed upon by the buyer and the seller, right? For Sourcy, we want to take a totally different approach. We want to in-source all this complexity and then automate it with AI, right? So that's why we're developing a lot of generative AI technology using like different open source large language model like ChatGPT and the like, to really develop a very intuitive user experience for both buyer and seller to interact with Sourcy and then with each other, so that like a lot of these traditional, I guess, sourcing channels problems can be automated and tackled, right? So that's really our approach. I think in terms of our traction, right, and our development, very thankfully, within less than 2 years, we have onboarded like around 100 customers that are actively using Sourcy on a month-to-month basis. And we are very fortunate to have also received some very sizable order, and at the upper bound, right, I would say one order can be in the quantum of around $100,000. So I think that's really very strong testament for someone like me who is starting a business for the first time. When I really saw the actual orders coming in and the customers kind of thanking Sourcy for the value that we're providing, it was a very strong kind of dose of confidence that's injected. So I think that was really why I really feel very confident about what we're building, and I want to roll it out to more countries, and hopefully at some point to Japan.
I see. So how many companies do you operate at the moment?
How many countries?
Yes.
So we are mainly targeting Indonesian and the Philippines for the time being. We do have the ambition to grow to other Southeast Asian countries within the next 12 to 18 months. But even today, right, we have customers from Singapore, from Taiwan, from Australia, from India, and from the US, outside of the Philippines and Indonesia, which are our two core markets. So we're pretty excited to see that, because it is basically telling us that the problem that we're trying to solve is a very pervasive problem across the globe, right? And we are indeed very excited to really scale up our solution once we have penetrated our initial market, so that at some point Sourcy can become a global company, not only a Southeast Asian company.
But you do source from many countries, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I described was more on the customer side, and then of course for a transaction to go through, we need both buyers and sellers. Right? So our sellers, I would say, as of today, a lot of them are from China. But we are also onboarding some manufacturers from the Middle East, from Vietnam, from Malaysia, from other countries to supplement the gaps. I would say for most of the product categories, China still has a very clear cost advantage compared to other manufacturing hubs. But then for some niche products, right, that are not available from China, we also are very actively looking to onboard more suppliers. And one good example is actually this I guess self-ordering kiosk that we are trying to onboard. And we initially tried to look for supply in China, but we didn't have much luck. And then when we looked deeper, we actually realized Japan is probably one of the most reliable source for these type of products. And right now we are actually actively looking for Japanese suppliers to supply this type of kiosk. So that is kind of like a description of our strategy as well. We work with our customers, understand their needs, understand their pain points, and then according to their needs, right, we curate the best solution for them wherever the suppliers are from, right? So that's our company philosophy, to bring the best product to the customers in the shortest time with the least hassle, regardless of where the supplier is from.
So like speaking of like Japan, what sort of like industries or like items you would be like interested in, like what sort of like companies, like suppliers would you be interested in connecting with?
Yeah, so of course, like there are a lot of big, conglomerates, like, the Panasonic of the world that we are pretty, I guess, excited to work with. But at the same time, right, even much smaller companies, like even just a small operation, if they have good products, we also want to help them export that to the widest audience possible, right? And the good thing about Sourcy is we do have this customer base that we're developing in Southeast Asia, so hopefully it will also be very interesting to Japanese suppliers. And in terms of categories of products, I think our strongest product category is still home and living, with some apparel and fashion, some baby and mom products, with some pets products as well. But broadly speaking, everything falls under this lifestyle consumer product category, and that's the category that we are the most excited about. But sometimes our customers do expand their category from lifestyle consumer products to other categories, and then of course as a platform that adds value to our customer, we'll also follow them and then provide them with more options.
I see.
In addition to that, right, we also want to onboard, I guess, like strong talents, and since we're doing a lot of frontier development in the generative AI space, I also want to ensure we can tap into some of the I guess like highest potential talents in Japan, particularly around machine learning, AI, and maybe even robotic type of development, because that's also what I believe Japan is known for. So if there's a way to work with those talents, that would be very, very special as well. And I think last but not least, at some point our company do want to offer very favorable payment terms and working capital solutions to our customers, and therefore being able to access funding at a low cost of capital is also very important. So maybe some Japanese financial institutions who do have this ambition right, to land to overseas markets, then potentially we can also partner up. And
like I wanted to know why like your operation is mainly in Indonesia and Philippines right now. Is there a reason why?
Yeah, for sure. So one core belief that we have, right, is this trend of consumption upgrade. When we look at the purchasing power of Indonesia and the Philippines right now, their purchasing power on a per capita GDP basis is very similar to where China was in the 2000s, around the 2006 and 2008 kind of range. And we also knew that it's exactly when a lot of the discretionary spending, consumption upgrade happened. Right, so during that period of time, a lot of Chinese direct-to-consumer brands were formed, and then today, there's this very famous company across the globe called Shein. It was also founded exactly in 2008. Right, so we know this trend is going to play out in Southeast Asia as well, and Indonesia and the Philippines are just the two largest population, right, in the region that we want to support. So that's why we are very bullish about the long-term retail sector development in these two countries, and we want to become that sourcing and supply chain channel to empower the entrepreneurs over there. Well, I guess if anyone is interested in Sourcy, be it to sell your product or buy some products, please check out Sourcy.ai, which is our URL. And it is really a pleasure to meet Everett today, and I think at some point hopefully we can also become a household name in Japan.
For sure.
That's our goal.
Okay, thank you so much. It was truly inspirational. Thank you so much, Carl. It was nice to have you. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.